Hi there folks, Matt Hayson with this week's market wrap. Plenty going on impacting the property market. Let's look at interest rates. We all know now, cash rate dropped to 1.25% during the course of the week. This is the 13th interest rate reduction since this cycle began back in 2011 when interest rates were sitting at 4.75%. In fact, mortgage levels are now lower than they were seen in the 1950s. It is expected that there will be further interest rate cuts through the course of this year, maybe in July, maybe even August, but the big one is the cash rate is now predicted to be sitting at 0.5% by the middle of 2020. Now, when we look across our property market, we're continuing to see that improvement in overall confidence and buyer sentiment. This interest rate reduction is certainly another positive boost for the property sector. In fact, I was speaking with a buyer's agent during the course of the week, and he summed up this change in the mood of the market that we've seen prior to the election. He was advising all of his clients, look, go to auction. The auction market is depressed, the clearance rate's sitting at 50%, if not below. There's not a lot of competition. There's a good chance you'll pick up the property less than what you'd budgeted for. Now, fast forward after the election, he's all of a sudden flipped that on its head and he's advising his clients to make an offer and buy the property before auction. The reason being is all of a sudden there's increased buyer urgency and a willingness to get competitive either before the auction or at auction. But with the good part of the market, we've also got to look at the balance side of things. And the reason why interest rates are falling is there's weak economic growth, the housing downturn, we've got a drought, there's the US trade wars going on. Unemployment is certainly deteriorating. That's resulting in wage growth being quite slow. And also inflation continues to fall short of that RBA target sitting between 2 and 3%. We also know now over the last quarter, 7 out of 8 capital cities still recorded price declines in the last quarter. And here in Sydney, property prices are now back to the level seen at June 2015. But spare a thought for our friends over in Western Australia, their property prices are back to May 2006. Also, finally, as we bring up the Heron Todd White property clock, which really monitors the movement of prices right around the country, they're still suggesting that there's still some price declines in the Sydney market before it bottoms out. Now, what we'd suggest is here in our blue chip areas, we're a little bit more resilient. So perhaps this property clock is more looking at the overall Sydney market rather than region specific. So as we filter all of that down, what we're seeing is some positive stimulus for the property market, no doubt about it, but there's some headwinds for the economy. As we charge further into winter, we're seeing really low stock levels, so that's pushing that buyer demand. And if anything, I would suggest right now, as at today's market, it is all of a sudden slightly in favour of sellers. But the big thing is here, it is realistic sellers. If you are going to bring your home onto the market, be aware, property prices are not increasing, we're just seeing an improvement in confidence. So if you bring your home onto the market, engage with the right buy pool, you will set yourself up for an absolutely terrific sale. And that brings us into this weekend, folks, where we are bringing on what are, without question, the best homes in the market in our local area. And our entire team looks forward to seeing you out and about. Enjoy the long weekend, and I'll see you all next week.